Just a moment, it says you'll be live soon.
Okay, we're live now.
Yeah, we are live. So,
ladies and gentlemen, sorry.
You are live.
Good.
Okay.
Let's look at some of
we are live.
issues and their solutions as well, of course.
Yeah. You know, as we were saying earlier, in terms of you know, my take from the lesson learned from this is that the local e-commerce providers and the fact that we can integrate the payments across as we are doing today. You know, Amole is being integrated with Flutterwave. We've been working on that integration to do cross-border. A lot of those initiatives are key in order for us to be able to facilitate cross-border transactions from e-commerce perspective. Agreed, there is some local issues like forex controls that takes place in Ethiopia that, you know, money can be remitted to Ethiopia, but for Ethiopians to buy products from outside is very difficult because of forex controls. So, you know, that is still a challenge from our perspective. However, some key ingredients in terms of being able to have a huge consumer market in Ethiopia helps in terms of propelling this and making the equation a lot simpler for governments to allow some of these forex controls, as well as some of the tariffs and so forth, so that we could benefit out of the this e-commerce cross-border and so forth. So my take is that we are in a very good trajectory right now from working across the different value-added services that comes integrated in with the DHLs and Flutterwaves and so forth, that would bring in commerce to affordable stage. Again, within Africa, transportation is an issue. We can't even right now between Ethiopia and Kenya, we do have roads, asphalt roads all the way, but you know, Kenya is, they are driving on the left side, on the right side, we ride on the left, and their trucks cannot come into Ethiopia, our trucks cannot go into their, so there has to be some kind of exchanges on the borders, you know, all these different things that causes headaches for commerce, and it becomes expensive. So those are things that has to be figured out by the policymakers and making it easier. You know, the paperwork that is required in terms of if you are trying to do B2B across countries, the question is, what kind of paperwork do I need from importation perspective? And how do we make sure that if this is products that have very short shelf life, how do we make sure that this thing can be processed quickly into the country and get into the shelves of the supermarkets or whatever the case might be? You know, those kind of things. Right now, we are heavy on paper and heavy on bureaucracy, all those different things that needs to be improved in order for this to, the adoption to take place.
Thank you. Yes, agreed entirely. Amadou, since DHL spends a very large amount of its time crossing frontiers with enormous experience and enormous success, can you add to that, and particularly the transport side? Amadou, can you hear me?
Well, I think there are two different types of opportunities. The first opportunity that exists is the one for our young entrepreneurs that are operating in Rwanda, in Ethiopia, and in Nigeria, in all these markets, to actually explore new markets. Because we have a lot of young people that are producing fashion goods and, you know, shoes in Soul Rebel in Ethiopia, who actually are exporting to Canada and to Europe, and because there they can make better margins. So, you know, as business people who are investing in Africa, there is opportunity for them to make much better margin by exporting to the mature market, like in Europe or in America. That is one thing that is already possible today, and many people are actually making use out of that opportunity to be able to connect. Now, for the intra-African trade, it's the same thing. So, for example, in Ethiopia, there are 14 industrial platforms that have been built. And I know that Ethiopian Airline connects with all of the countries. And then supposedly with the new agreement, we have open sky. However, if we try to work with Ethiopian Airline to go to some of the countries, and I know it personally, then they start raising national flag, this and that. But then, Lufthansa can fly in, Air France can fly in, British Airways can fly in, but Ethiopian Airline, that is a big problem. That is something that our politicians have to lay away, because then they can be facilitating, growth of opportunity within our continent. Second thing that I see as an opportunity, intra-African trade. So yes, we have borders and then roads that have been built, not only between Ethiopia and Kenya. We also have similar roads between Senegal and Mali. They all speak French. However, the trucks, they spend sometimes 5 days in the border, because there are some interesting caps or customs officers that think that they have some paperwork to do for 5 days. And this is completely stupid, because they're killing business both in Senegal and in Mali, and that happens in many different countries. And I think we have to be, I don't really mind telling to our politicians, sometimes they have to have the guts of their intentions and then put that vision into practice, because otherwise they're killing entrepreneurs in all of our countries. And if you want to really benefit from the 400 or 500 million opportunities that are inside our own continent, they should stop signing papers and then implementing what they have signed. And I think that that is really, for me, if I have to appeal on something, that is one thing that is really extremely necessary. Now, for our manufacturing, electricity is very expensive in all of our countries in Africa. And because it is expensive, it is very difficult for manufacturing platforms to come and implement their manufacturing platforms inside our countries. Now, I can see that Ethiopia is trying to have cheaper electricity, then Egypt is shouting loud, and then Sudan is shouting loud. So we are the first hinderers of our own development, and I think that we have to speak it out.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. I think before I bring Owen, it is important to say that Africa is divided into has 8 regions. Or economic region, and some of these are extremely successful. The East African community, for example, which has 6 different countries, is really very, very successful. It's removed a lot of the barriers, and particularly customs barriers, although they reappeared suddenly when COVID started. But they were reducing the amount of time lorry was spending between, for example, Rwanda and Kenya, which are neighboring countries, to around about 20 minutes, sorry, instead of taking 20 hours previously. So I think that is really very good. COMESA is another one, which is extremely go ahead. So I think what we're going to see is that the African Union is actually going to be based on these regional economic communities more than on the whole of Africa, all at one time. But that's my own opinion. Oh, please, could you give your opinion?
If I could focus a little bit on the payment side. So definitely one of the challenges is infrastructure logistics, which I think Yemiru and Amadou have done a great job of covering. On the payment side, we still see some challenges that hinder intra-Africa trade. One of the things you mentioned, particularly on the B2B side, are any FX controls or repatriation controls that many countries in Africa today have in place. As Flutterwave, it's been quite interesting, being that today we operate in about 13 African countries. It's been interesting to liaise with our bank partners, with certain regulators across some of the countries, to build solutions that can help make it a little bit easier for a business who wants to move funds in and out of the country to do so. We're not at a full-scale solution yet, but we're seeing progress, particularly in some of the larger countries, like in South Africa, in Nigeria, where it's traditionally and it's historically been really expensive or practically impossible to move funds out. So really excited to see that trajectory and see where else in Africa we can replicate those types of relationships that enable us to present a use case for 2020, not based on regulations that were drafted maybe 100 years ago. And then on the consumer side, even though companies like Flutterwave, JumiaPay exist today to make it easier for consumers to transact online, there's still a big trust factor when it comes to digital payments, right? As a consumer, I'm used to going to a marketplace, rendering cash and having my purchase in my hands immediately. And I know attitudes are starting to change, or they've been changing over the last decade when it comes to digital payments, but there's still a lot of ground to be covered. One of the things that Flutterwave just launched yesterday, actually, piloting in Nigeria, is a payment protection plan. Essentially, we're guaranteeing security of our payment platform and giving consumers the confidence to shop online, knowing that if any issues arise with their orders, they have our full guarantee that they will be refunded. So just little steps here and there to help the different entities that are involved in the payment ecosystem become more trusting of transacting online, transacting digitally. So, yeah.
Thank you. We are going to run out of time soon. One, could you give your view? And someone asked the question also about Jumia. Jumia has played a leading part in guiding development of logistics market. What relative weight do you give to supplier purchase pricing, rather, responsiveness and security track records in your procurement processes? It's quite a...
Yeah, I mean, given the amount of time that
I think.
Yeah, I see two questions. I think the first one is actually, when do we expect the online transactions to go from 2 to 75%? I don't think anybody knows, and I don't know any country that is at that level yet. I think China is leading the pack, and they are at 30%, but maybe, Alistair, you know the number better. So, I mean, the point is that the uplift is enormous for all of us playing in that space. With regards to the question on logistics, I mean, we operate the marketplace, and that's what we do, right? We operate the marketplace for online transactions, for the food deliveries with Jumia Food. On the logistics side, that's exactly what we have tried to do. So what we try to do is engage on the rules of the game, right? As a supplier connected to the platform, you are abiding to visibility on the items that you're shipping, connecting to our platform, giving us 360 view on where the package is at each delivery point, and us being able to police that marketplace so that we can give a uniform experience to the users, in this case, our users. But the reality is that our plan is, we've been piloting this year, and it's been announced, and the idea is to open this logistics platform to third parties. You can be one of these e-commerce's in social media that Alistair was pointing out that is growing very fast. You could be a seller on Facebook, on Instagram, and then you can connect to Jumia to give you the logistics. And in the future it would be the payment side, and then you have the 360 solution to be able to sell online. But when it comes to the relative weight and going really back to the question, is there's two kinds of sellers, or there's a few, but not sellers, but logistics. We have the formal, we know them all. It's BGS in Kenya, and very structured logistics companies. We also connect to postal services like Post in Kenya and in North Africa. And then we have SMEs, entrepreneurs, as I said, that have small fleets and have been with us from day one, and they are, they understand e-commerce, and they know their areas where they are delivering better than anyone else, and any 3PL that you could leave there to try to deliver, and they can go to remote locations, and even knowing some of the customers they have been delivering to for the past X years, right? So it's a combination of both, and we try to look at the track record to to their operations. And the better they do, the better the pricing, and the combination of all those factors, the more orders that we will place to this logistics partners to handle deliveries for Jumia. But it's exactly that. It's a marketplace, and you try to operate them in the most efficient way for both the supply side, but also the consumer side.
Thank you very much. I think the audience will have seen, particularly those who are not based in Africa, that we have issues, and these ones have a lot to do with leadership, have a lot to do with tradition, have a lot to do with culture, have a lot to do with the way in which the history of Africa was drawn up by people with a pen and a piece of paper and no understanding at all of where they were going, what they were doing. What we have to do, I think, I'm an optimist. I find that as I get older, I get more and more optimistic. Thank goodness. I'm optimistic of going to heaven. So I feel that we have to be optimistic, and we have to throw our support behind the politicians and particularly the civil servants who are creating this African free trade area, and that will be digitally driven. We are actually out of time, but I'm hoping that the organizers, who I haven't heard from for some time, will give us a little bit more time. Right, okay, that's good. Optimism wins on that one too. Humiro, could you say the last few couple of words?
Yes. Well, just to conclude, Amadou touched the case in terms of the countries being, some of them industrialized and some of them are not, and so forth. And Ethiopia has built this industrial parks, huge, gigantic industrial parks that are employing 50, 100,000 people per industrial park. That is creating a lot of products. But these products right now are geared for, US and Europe because of the free trade agreements that Ethiopia, Africa has with, those countries. However, with the African free trade agreement in place, Ethiopia can also benefit, as well as Africa can benefit, and with the ability of being able to connect, Ethiopia to the rest of Africa through Ethiopian Airlines and other factors that DHL is in play with, it's a significant gain for Africa. But again, the question of solving the last mile within each country, the forex issue, the payment issue, those are the things that, if I would give suggestion that the main focus to solve the phase one focus to solve from the free trade agreement for Africa is those three needs to be solved initially, so that it becomes easier for the young entrepreneurs that we have. 70% of our population, which is under 25. We have incredible young population that is creating products and services that can be exported and can be utilized. We need to be able to consume products from Senegal, and we need to be able to consume products. This is digital products that we can, but all those need a payment to be in place, a payment that is not, it's a frictionless payment. That we need in order to orchestrate all those different things. I'm optimistic like you, Alistair. As you get older, you get optimistic. I'm in that belief as well. And I think we are in that trajectory. I think that the next 5 to 10 years, Africa is going to be on the map.
Thank you. Africa, your new continent. Amadou, can you give a few last words?
Okay, you mean me, I guess, yeah. So
Yes, sorry.
yeah. So I think that, yes, we have challenges, but where there are challenges, there are a lot of opportunities. And coming from Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, Libya, all of these markets down to South Africa, we have the youngest population. They need infrastructure, they need housing, they need all the appliances, they want to drive the fanciest cars. They like to have fun in the weekends, unlike people who are, much older, like some of us, sitting in Europe or somewhere else where, we want to go and walk around the park. So there's a huge demand, yeah. And even when borders are complicated, and borders were not only complicated in Africa, they were also complicated in other places, people have always found a way to do business. I heard about, payment challenges. I know that in Ethiopia, they're changing the regulation to make it also like other countries in Africa so that people can transact. But, you can also use international payment platforms that exist today. So, our e-commerce platform that we have in these 33 countries, everybody is paying, digitally on the platform, and I haven't heard of any challenges. So I think that everything is possible. Some countries try to be a little bit protectionist, but actually what they do is that they give their consumers in the countries or the entrepreneurs less opportunity to connect to the rest of the globe. But when I look at what is happening in Mauritius, in Rwanda, in Kenya, in Madagascar, in Ghana, in Senegal, in Nigeria, so people are getting more and more away from, being bound to politicians and in getting into trade, because we will not save ourselves out of aid. We have to start going, accelerating our going into trade. And for us, as DHL, that's the context within which we have launched this Go Trade initiative that we have recently launched together with some international organizations, where 30 million euros is being put into play to help small and medium enterprises in Africa to go global in their trading and not just concentrate on Africa, because there are opportunities to make profit outside of Africa as well. But it is also so that we have opportunities within Africa, and people have to open their market like has been done in East Africa, and stop changing the border policies just because one president doesn't talk to the other, but really think of the consumers that we have to take care of, and then open opportunities for entrepreneurs in Africa to become billionaires in that market, and not just open it for French entrepreneurs or British entrepreneurs or Portuguese entrepreneurs. Because if you have richer Africans, then they will be spending more money in Africa and investing more and making trade possible in our continent. And lastly, with most of our young people being more educated, the time of being fooled around with unprecise arguments is over. So I think that the situation where we were hanging with old politicians who didn't know where to go, that is over. So Africa will be moving on. And I can see the dynamic like it was in the ASEAN market in 2009, 2008. So things are changing very fast. So if you have an opportunity and you want to make money and you want to do business, you come to Africa, you will certainly do business.
Amadou, merci. Thank you. Oh, the last
parting words is we as private entities need to seek avenues to collaborate more, and sometimes potentially also educate the public sector. I think that the path to the greatest amount of success will include collaboration between both private sector and government and public sector. Sometimes some of the things that we're working on as private sector, as you said at the beginning of this session, Alistair, are like leapfrog technologies that can sometimes not be covered by the regulations we have in place, or can sometimes be difficult for regulators to understand or follow through at the pace with which we're moving. So in the future, just looking forward to seeing more collaboration, more sit downs between both sides of the coin to really think about how some of the policies we have in place can be prohibitive to driving growth across the continent.
Thank you very much indeed. One last few words.
Yeah, I mean, a lot has been said already. So I'm going to keep it short. I would go back to the point I made at the beginning, right? online is still 2% of online, and going back to the theme of the call, right? Online e-commerce is still 2% of total retail transactions. The median age of Africa in the market where Jimmy operates at is 19.5 years, 20 years, super young population. In some markets, you still have startups and internet companies talking about how we need to go mobile first. Well, we are already mobile first. People are browsing through their phones constantly, and as far as as looking at e-commerce, the opportunity is here. It's there, and it's massive, as Amadou was saying. So pointing out that if you want to do business, come to Africa for sure. I think the drive is there. The will to operate into e-commerce is there, and it's been shown by the tons of startups, and also formal companies going into e-commerce, just like DHL is doing with their e-commerce play. So it will happen, and I'm pretty, and Jumia as a whole, we are very hopeful in what and optimistic into both the short term and the longer term.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, all of you. I think it's been an extremely good session. I would like to particularly point out that, yes, there are challenges, but this is a very young continent, and one with a tremendous entrepreneurial spirit. There's often the phrase, African solutions for African problems. And I think whenever there is a problem, there is very often a solution which is immediately produced. Now, that doesn't always, unfortunately, spill over to the regulators and the politicians. They tend to have African problems for African problems. But this is something that we're working on. So one of the things that the African e-commerce forum is trying to do is to be a stakeholder, talking to the regulators. That's our job, and try and make them understand what exactly is going on. As O said, the new cutting edge facilities and solutions which are being which we are meeting. I actually realized that we have been extremely good. I think we've got something like 5 minutes to go. So if anyone would like to say one very last word, please do so. Let's just see it. No, we haven't got any more questions. Yeah, if anyone has any other points that they've forgotten, please, now is your chance. Everyone looks as if they've said what they need to say.
I just want to say hi to all my colleagues from DHL in Africa. We love you.
And colleagues and clients, hopefully, as well.
All my customers,
always good.
Excellent, good. Well, thank you. As a panel, you've been absolutely superb. Thank you very much indeed, and thank the organisers for putting on this panel. We can all be contacted, I guess, through the organisers. And if you have any questions, any further points that you'd like to make, please do so. Contact us, and we will try to answer. So thank you very much indeed. We're going to finish 2 minutes early, which is amazing. Thank you, organisers.
Thanks everyone, and thank you to the
Thank you, everyone.
well.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Good. Bye-bye.
Bye.